to talk about some strategies that I use, jump rope related, non-jump rope related, to get through the everyday existential struggle that life is. Life is tough. That is probably an understatement. Throughout the course of this channel, when I started this channel, I was going through some pretty difficult times, and this entire decade has been rewarding for me, but it's also been full of trials and tribulations. There's been a lot of change. There have been a lot of mistakes made, and there have been a lot of big decisions that I've made that haven't gone quite the way that I envisioned they would. And much of the time, that can get you down. But much of the time, the best lessons in life are learned through the difficult times that make you a better person. Throughout that time, I've been looking at myself and having to deal with myself every day and having to continue forward, as life has changed a lot over the past 10, 20 years. Life was a lot different 20 years ago than it is today. I think a lot of us who are in our late 20s, 30s, and 40s would agree with that. Things have changed tremendously. So I'm going to go through some strategies that I've used over the past few years, and especially in the last year, because this last year has been a big change for me in many ways. One strategy that I use is growing up and as a kid and being in the military in my young adult life after college. You're always taught to ignore the pain, ignore the emotions that you have, and to grit and bear it, and to continue to move through and to not acknowledge the emotions that you're having. Over the past 5 or 6 years, I've learned that for me, that's not the healthiest way to go about dealing with the daily struggles of life. What I do instead, whenever I can, is I try to sit back when I'm frustrated, when I'm angry, when I'm sad to the point of tears, and I let the emotion roll through me. I let it take its course. I'm not saying that I lay on the couch for 2 or 3 days and I don't move, because there's a lot of obligations that you have to do in your life that won't allow you to sit on the couch and lay in bed and do nothing. But what I'll do is for 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes, I respect the emotion. I let the emotion go through me. I let the emotion do what it does. The emotion is there for a reason, and it should be respected. Emotions are strong. I believe now that the last thing that I want to do is ignore the emotion, because if the emotion is tapered down or if it's suffocated, it's going to find a way to manifest itself in some way, shape, or form. So it's better to deal with it right then and there, to sit with the emotion, to respect it, and to ask yourself what the emotion is attempting to teach you. What is it trying to tell you? Because it's trying to tell you something important, but if you ignore it, then you can't hear the message. You won't be open to the message. One strategy that I use that I've gotten from reading James Clear's material, specifically Atomic Habits, is to avoid overinflating the obligations of your life. For instance, if you have a 2-mile run planned for tomorrow, you're dreading it, you don't want to do it. Don't think that you have to do a 2-mile run. Think that I'm just going to get my shoes on and I'm going to walk outside. And then you'll find yourself getting your shoes on, walking outside, and not putting pressure on yourself, and getting your 2-mile run completed. But if you go into it thinking that I need to do this 2-mile run, I need to make sure that I run it in 12 minutes and 30 seconds, and if I don't, then I'm not going to pass the next test that I got to make, and things of that nature. That's what I used to do. For a long time when I was younger, I got out of running shape. I got out of my 2-mile running shape because I was so concerned about making my 2-mile run in 12 minutes, 30 seconds, that if I wasn't feeling up to running 2 miles that day and I knew that I wasn't hydrated enough, or I knew that I hadn't done the proper procedures the night before to prepare, then I just wouldn't run the 2 miles, which over time that compounds. And then, of course, I'm going to get slower because I didn't run at all. But if you lessen the obligations in your mind, if you reframe, that's how I deal with a lot of the obligations that I have in my life, whether it's with this channel or whether it's personally, professionally. I try not to overinflate what's on my plate. I try to think about it as, okay, I have a meeting, I have this briefing to this high ranking person. Okay. I just look at it as a conversation. I just say, okay, I'm going to go in and I'm going to talk to him and her about this project that I've been doing. And I do my best not to overinflate it, because if you overinflate it and you make what you're doing more than it really is instead of breaking it down, then it's super easy to become depressed. It's super easy to think that you have the imposter syndrome and that you're not up to the task, even though you've done everything that you should be doing to complete the task. What I've been working on to conserve my energy, but also to have good energy, is to limit how I react to people. My goal these days is to be non-reactive, especially when in the past someone has done something that would have frustrated me. I would have been frustrated in the past. If I get a silly email from someone or someone does something that I find to be offensive, I just stop reacting. I'm not always successful, but reactions instead of responses make life a lot worse than it could be. Much of the time, we interpret what people are doing as an effrontery, as an offensive behavior, when really they're just doing their best and they're doing what they know how to do. That's what we're all doing. We're all doing what we know how to do. But when you react and you're reacting to everything, it shows that you don't have much control over yourself. For me, I used to be, and still am sometimes, super reactive. And all it does is it gives people the key to understand how to press your buttons. If you're reacting to something, then that signals to the person, oh, if I just say this, then I can get under his skin. Oh, if I say this, then I can get her angry. So you're giving people the blueprint to your mind when you react. Instead of taking what somebody says, thinking about it and not showing any facial expressions, having a poker face, or just saying, oh, okay, you're probably right, and letting it roll off your back. And then taking what happened, thinking about it later, and if it needs to be addressed, addressing it 24 or 48 hours later, even though most of the time you don't need to address it because time usually takes care of it. That's been a super helpful method that I've been using over the past few months, is mastering myself to the point where I don't let anybody bother me. Or if I am bothered by somebody, I don't allow them to see that I'm bothered, because I don't want to give them the blueprint to my mind. It's the same thing with the YouTube comments. In the past, when I was younger with this channel, I used to, and even last year, I responded with some video when some guy who I don't even know said that I cramped up after 5 minutes of jumping. There was no reason for me to even waste time doing a video responding to that guy. No reason whatsoever. It was my own immaturity that allowed me to respond in that way, instead of just blocking him from the channel, just putting him to the point where he wasn't able to have his comments seen on the channel, which is the right way to do it. I allowed him to get the satisfaction of getting under my skin, because that's all he was doing anyway. There are some people who exist simply to get under other people's skin because they're miserable. And the best thing is to ignore. The best thing is to ignore. One thing that I never used to understand when I was younger is how super famous people never respond to any Instagram comments. They never respond to anything. Now I completely understand, because in a position that they're in, they can't afford to let anybody see what bothers them, or else people will be getting at them all day long. The media, trolls, people who want to do them harm. They can't afford that. And I'm sure that their publicists tell them that you can't respond to any of this. They don't have the time. But I'm sure that they read a lot of the comments that they get and they want to respond, but they don't. And it's the same thing. Reacting and not responding is a sure way to let life get to you to the point where you don't want to continue on. Another way I've been building confidence in myself to the point where I'm excited to wake up every day and excited to work on the channel, to go to work, is by taking a personal challenge of protecting my time. I've become more so focused on how I spend my time, and especially at work. A lot of people think that they're productive if they go to meetings all day, but I think I'm more productive if I'm protecting my time, avoiding meetings, and reading about my job, reading about my craft, reading about the skill set and the profession that I'm in so that I can be more useful. There are some skills that you can glean from going to meetings all day, but I think that they pale in comparison to taking time to think, taking time to understand what's around you. If you can protect your time, that to me is the utmost vote of confidence toward your self-esteem, because you say to yourself, no, the way that I want to spend my time is more important in the long term than the way that other people want me to spend my time. There are certain points in life where you have to do what someone wants you to do, whether it's a boss or a superior or maybe your parents or someone in an authority position over you. But you'll know what that time is. If you know how to protect your time, you'll understand when there's times where you have to give in and do something that you wouldn't want to do. That's not the best use of your time, but could end up being a good use of your time in the long term. I'm an introverted person. I always have been. I was born that way. I've always been more on the quiet side, a more reflective person, a deep thinker, someone who doesn't talk very much. But what I've had to do over the past few years is learn how to develop relationships with people, to cultivate those relationships over the course of years, and to continue to talk to people and to meet new people. Meeting new people is something that's very difficult for me. It's not something that comes naturally to me. For me to build relationships and then to cultivate relationships, what I've had to do to ensure that I contact people who are important to me is I've had to use my Todoist app and put a reminder to reach out to the people who I trust and respect on a monthly basis, to reach out to them on a monthly basis. That's the only way that I remember. And I get automatic reminders because, number one, it's not natural for me to reach out to people. I'm extremely introverted. And two, because of a lot of the obligations I have in life between work, the channel, and the different skill acquisition projects I'm involved in, I simply won't think about reaching out to people and continuing to develop and cultivate relationships. But I'm proud that a couple years ago I started with my Todoist system of reaching out to people. And when I've encountered hard times, I've reached out to people who I can trust, who may not be aware of the situation that I'm in, but they're unaware to the situation I'm in at a point where if I tell them what's going on, then they're so far removed that they're not going to be able to have any sort of bias about it. They're not going to be able to affect the situation, even if they wanted to affect the situation. And it's difficult to explain, but say I'm having a problem at work, I would reach out to maybe somebody, a mentor of mine in the Army, but someone who doesn't know any of the people who I'm having a problem at work with, or if I'm having a personal problem, I reach out to a trusted mentor who doesn't have any idea of the people who I'm dealing with in that personal arena of my life. Someone who can give me good advice, not what I want to hear, but what I need to hear, and who also doesn't have the connections to reach out to that person and talk to them, even though I know that they wouldn't. That connection doesn't exist, so there's no temptation for them to do that anyway. So that's how I like to reach out to people when I'm struggling. Is I try to continue to build a relationship. Once a month, I talk to a set group of people. I just send them a text message and say, hey, how's it going? I just wanted to check in, because the last thing that I want to do is reach out to someone who I haven't talked to in a year and ask them if I can talk to them about a problem I'm having. You want to continue to build that relationship monthly or weekly so that it doesn't seem like you're coming to people whenever you have a problem. And you always want to offer your help as well. Is there anything I can do for you? That's what I like to do. That's how I build relationships. That's how I've gotten through these past couple of years, is by cultivating those relationships. And then when I need a trusted ear to talk to, being able to have confidence that I can reach out to those folks and they'll either give me good advice or they'll listen to me and they'll tell me what they would do if they were in my situation. I hope that this video was helpful. Life is difficult. And I think that in a sense, it becomes more and more difficult the older that we get, because the older you get, the more of your innocence you lose. When I was younger, I remember having this rosy view of the world. The best was yet to come. And I think that more good is yet to come for me. But as you get older, you start to realize that a lot of the good years are behind you, and that you have to truly be cognizant of how you spend your time, because the longer you live, the less time you have, and the less you have of something, the more precious it becomes. So time is our only non-renewable resource. So that constant feeling that you have less and less time the older you get can be tough to deal with. And I think that adds to the tendency for me to become depressed, to feel lonely. But there are ways around it, and I explained a lot of that in this video. Just taking it day by day, realizing that if today wasn't good, tomorrow is going to be a new day. The sun, like Kevin Hart said, the sun is going to come up. The sun is going to come up no matter what happens. It's been coming up for the past however long, and it's going to continue to come up, whether you're here or you're not. But the sun is going to come up. And like Colin Powell said, it's going to look better in the morning, whatever happens. So if you have any strategies that you use to keep getting after it, to keep exercising, to keep facing up to life and keep attacking and going out on the attack, please share your strategies in the comment section below. I'd love to read them. All right, until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, jump rope to freedom. Peace. Thanks for watching.